Hello, this is Frontline here, and welcome to a behind the scenes video. In this one, I'm actually going to be doing one on Aztech Labs, but not the Aztech Labs you know. No, this is actually a version of Aztech Labs that I completely destroyed. I scrapped it. Now this version of the map does not exist at all. So but let's actually get into all of that right now. So as you can see, I still have a beacon here. This was a unfinished version, so I had a speed beacon here as I was building stuff around. But anyway, here on the Xbox One edition is actually where I built majority of the actual Aztec Labs. So is where I started my conquest on the old version of Aztec Labs. So over here you can see the village is a lot different. The main things, the tree did stay the same. The portal almost stayed the same, and there is Richard and Roger over here. This was very early concepts in the map. I don't know anything about your quest. Perhaps Roger knows some information about it all. And then you go over here, and ooh, Roger, I don't know anything about your quest. Perhaps Richard knows some information about it all. It was the lamest joke in the adventure map. I will own up to that. That is the lamest joke in the adventure map, and yet I kept it to this day because I enjoyed it that much. So, anyway, here is spawn. As you can see, spawn is a lot different. You ended up being around here. You had messages on this board saying, "Thank you for downloading the map. After grabbing your stuff, head into the nether portal." You know, instead of having just a giant start sign, because in the current map, it is very obvious. Start is right there, so that players know where to go first. And the stuff that you start off with also changed quite a bit. In Aztec Labs right now, we have 16 bread and 16 arrows, actually, which is half of what I gave you here, as well as the fact that you actually got armor. You got the Helmet of Deception, Montezuma's shirt, Trousers of Trickery, and Death Boots. You also got the Blade of Kabyle and the standard, the Bow of Hadia instead of the standard bow and the scalpel. So those were some basic changes I made later on. Oh yeah, and also this guy, Hassan, I actually got rid of him. It was just, don't listen to Richard and Roger, they're a bunch of nitwits. All the info you need is behind you, which it is, honestly. So this whole entire village is a lot different. I'm just going to do a very quick tour over the area before I get into exactly why I completely scrapped this idea, because as you may be thinking right now, this is a lot different than Aztec Labs. What made you change your mind from having something so much like this and like other culturally and just change it to what the map is today? So down here you can see it's like we have the Aztec ruins and stuff, random weapons and items. It's like the arrows in the bread, those kind of ended up being the same in the later stages of development for the map. I knew what items I wanted to give, but I definitely modified a lot of like the abundance and greatness of items. I mean, seriously, you get an iron sword in spawn. Now in the map, you basically just get a bunch of hoes at the beginning of the map to fight with, and then you get swords later on. But yeah, over here, the White Rose, we have a bunch of random weird items that are around. It was more like I wanted to have a bunch of weird random items. Now that isn't so much the case. We have Cursed Cake, that actually doesn't exist in the adventure map today, as well as the Helmet of Truth. That's what I meant to say. I have a bunch of random Aztec names that I have created not created, but I've used over the time in my adventure map, so I do get them confused a little bit. But yeah, the Helmet of Truth there. There's a bunch of random Aztec places up here, like lingering potions of health. I don't think I actually provide the player any lingering potions in the current version of the map. The tree is the same, but the person at the top is different, because I wanted to have a person at the top because this was supposed to be the main storyline. Like, this is the person of the village who would perhaps give you the femme flower. Like, you know, this was the first idea I came up with. But I changed that so that the village could really just be over in that direction and not through the portal, because over here you can see even the portal has changed. You just kind of go through here, and that's how you continue onward. Over here, we actually have a little bit of boats. These are jungle boats, which I actually haven't touched on yet. This whole entire place is made out of just jungle wood. Here's the jungle wood, here's the jungle planks, which I changed because I believe that spruce planks actually end up looking better next to the actual jungle wood. Which is kind of a little bit strange, you might think, but the spruce actually does end up working a lot better, which is the reason why I went with it. So over here we have the jungle boats, and you travel through here, and you're actually able to, or at least you would have been able to travel here, because up here was supposed to be a village. As you can see, I started building one here. I was going to have a ladder that you'd climb up and be able to like have some sort of like Aztec pathway, and this was the moment I scrapped the idea. I just stopped building the adventure map like it was going to be, and well, again, I'll get into that later, but first let's actually go into the nether portal, and I will show you what the tutorial used to look like. So as you can see, the jungle wood would have been replaced by spruce, so ignore that for now. This place is actually almost identical to what it is in the actual map. There's a bunch of holes because this was an unfinished map. Over here, the redstone for this thing is actually a little bit different. I changed it so that you don't have random lingering potions that the player can grab. Instead, I only have one lingering potion that once you activate the tripwire, it only then goes into the dispenser and goes onto the player consequently. So the problem with this system is that players were basically able to just steal a bunch of really, really good potions, because Regeneration 2 Lingering really does heal up a person extremely fast. So all of those I got rid of. We have this door over here. Again, lots of holes. It was very much a basic map. Airlock override, kind of the same, almost the same. This was like the first airlock override I created in the entire map, and the only reason was because I just wanted to be able to have a way to have both doors open and in kind of like a nice, consistent manner. Second of all, one thing is that this should be a blocked off iron door. So you're not actually able to get to the story immediately. You have to go through the tutorial. This tutorial area is a much different layout than the labs. You may have noticed that. You have very thin hallways here, and these blocked off rooms do not really fit with the rest of the adventure map in the current state. So we still have the basic books. It's almost kind of the same books. I think I didn't really modify all that stuff. Oh, I actually did, because I completely changed how the bonus books would be set up during the entire map. This is very much early concepts. But yeah, tutorial part 2, all the different settings. Tutorial part 3, the part where I brag, where I have this giant map of the entire jungle, which it really is a massive jungle. A giant map room that can show you that this whole entire area was the inspiration for me building here. But yeah, tutorial part that you're able to have 4. It's very much the same as the Aztech Labs tutorial. You may not have seen the tutorial yet as this video comes out, because obviously the map hasn't released yet. But yeah, tutorial part 5, parkour. This is the original parkour challenge. This is kind of an interesting design area, because it kind of slopes up. It's a very odd shape, and it kind of deviates a lot from what the labs look like right now. It's a very interesting puzzle here. I mean, this whole entire slime block thing here doesn't actually exist anywhere else in the map, so it was weird for me to include it. But I did keep it for a while because I thought that it was a cool parkour thing. As you can see, a lot of these ideas are not very consistent with the eventual decision of the map, which is going to be a common theme that I'm going to discuss later. The shopping for gear section is pretty much the same, but this was actually before I came up with the concept that allows you to buy multiple items at a time. Oh, I didn't even realize that. This is actually also before I came up with the concept to have the dispensers actually next to the player. And that's because on the Bedrock edition of the game, having a dropper dispense an item through a block doesn't actually work. Because if you try and do that through a block, it actually gets the item stuck and it like goes off in a random direction. So I had to remodify the redstone there. But as you can see right here, we have like the various different items and the redstone. It's a very old and outdated system. I'm glad I eventually fixed that. But yes, anyway, moving on. Secret areas. This is a really, I'd like to say cool, but it's also a very embarrassing section of the map. It was such a dumb joke. It was bad enough that I actually did get rid of it, even though the Roger and Richard joke was also awful. I didn't get rid of that one. But anyway, the secret areas is basically saying that like behind paintings, you could find stuff. Secrets may or may not have good items inside, and it's just only a piece of string. But if you look closer, it's a secret string. And nothing down this way. I can actually place it down the string there, and it reveals an embarrassing photo of SpongeBob at the Christmas party. Merry Christmas, SpongeBob. Yeah, it was an awful joke. It was just a reference to a TV show. It's an old TV show, but some of you may know it. It's called SpongeBob SquarePants. I'm almost certain all of you know of it, but nonetheless, it was just like a reference to the show of Patrick's Secret Box, and I actually scrapped this idea for two reasons. One of them being because I actually didn't realize, ignore my dog in the background, I didn't realize that you couldn't place down blocks in adventure mode. And it was something I should have realized, but Zane, yeah, sorry about my dog there. This is a behind the scenes video. It's not going to be as polished as my normal content. But anyway, right here, I actually didn't realize I couldn't place down string. So that was one reason I got rid of it. The second reason was because of actually kind of a funny reason. Whenever I went into survival mode on the Bedrock edition of Minecraft, when it was converted, for some reason, whenever I stepped over the pressure plates, it just crashed the game, like consistently. Every single time I did the redstone, it just like crashed, and I couldn't actually get back into the game for a while. But yeah, the tutorial is almost the same. It has like the same parts, but it's arranged in a different way. The hallways are different. This part right here has very flat walls, which makes it look a little cartoony. Another reason why I eventually changed it. But yeah, by pulling down that lever, this door opens. So now we can get into the story. And so I don't spoil anything. I basically just want to say that originally Aztech Labs was supposed to only be the biology department. It was supposed to like just consist of a bunch of weird random experiments. Like the chickens here, you can like toss healing potions at the zombies and stuff like that. And it was just something that completely changed over time because I decided to make this the finance department instead. Like I created different departments of Aztech Labs rather than having them all be just one consistent goal, which I thought was more interesting in the story. Over here, we still have Intern Steven. He has the same name. You know, hello, I'm Intern Steven. Like, the assignment's in the chest over here. I didn't write it because, obviously, when converting books, I mean, not obviously, but I know because I've tried it. When you convert books from the Xbox One edition to Bedrock Minecraft, it actually turns out that it adds a bunch of accented O's to your books randomly, not in a predictable pattern, but it adds like random accented O's. I've actually not tested it recently, but I think that's what still happens. I should probably test it, but back in the day, that didn't happen. Like it didn't convert properly, so that's why all of my books are created in the Bedrock edition, as well as the fact that you can actually change who the author is on that edition. But anyway, this is what it looks like from the outside. Kind of an interesting like pattern and stuff. It's like if you wanted to know what the outside of Aztech Labs looks like, that is what it is for now. There's also more of the labs that's over off in that direction, but I actually hadn't built any of that yet, so we won't be able to explore what that looks like as of now. So, now that we've actually explored everything, why did I change it? So you can see there is a lot of things that could have been in the map. The finance department, the whole entire, well, it wasn't the finance department back then, but basically just the laboratory in general, and this whole entire Aztec village. Why did I end up changing it? Well, in reality, it was mainly for one reason: consistency. You can see in the map here that I would have had my original idea was to just have like Aztec stuff like always in the overworld, and then the laboratory would be in the labs. And I was just thinking, oh, that would make sense, but because you'd be able to just like travel out into the laboratory, you'd like take an airplane or something, you'd be deposited in the jungle. But as time went on, it just didn't make sense in the overall storyline. Like, if you can only go to a certain part of the map in the engineering department, then why would it's like if I can go on airplane and fly anywhere I want to, why is it that the engineering department is the only place I can go to the third mission, or like some other random mission throughout the entire map? It just didn't make sense. So instead, I changed them to teleport modules that teleported you to direct places within the jungle. And they were in the outposts, the Aztec Lab outposts. If I would have had the Aztec civilization here, it wouldn't really make sense, because in reality, Aztec Labs is stealing from the Aztecs, and they aren't exactly the most keen on the whole entire laboratory's quest for like various items in the jungle. I mean, obviously the first mission, when you get the Fem Flower, that guy doesn't really mind, but just in general, you wouldn't really want a laboratory setting up camp in your old-fashioned jungle. But in the end, it was just the fact that this place didn't look good. I didn't like the feel of it. There were just random buildings all about, and like this temple, this like Aztec miniature temple. I mean, sure, it looks like an Aztec temple. I actually kind of like the overall look of it, kind of, but it just didn't make sense for it to be like this. Like, why wouldn't you just have like giant temples? Like, the giant temples make sense. In Aztec Village, you wouldn't have a temple. In Aztec City, you would have a temple. It just didn't fit the theme. The entire first area here, it didn't work. And that was what I realized right here. That was when I got here. I was building the rest of the town, and I realized this doesn't make sense. This doesn't work. If there's a single lesson I can teach from all of this, is that really you should plan out what your vision is before you start to create it. And this can count for anything. That doesn't just apply to adventure maps. This can apply to an essay. If you don't like your hook, you don't like your arguments. Let's say you wanted to create some sort of like graphic design poster. If you don't like how it's turning out, it's really hard to fix things in the end. You gotta create a basic design and follow through. Right here was me improving. There were a bunch of random buildings. I repeated various designs. It just looks like I tried to create a grid system in a city and build Aztec like things. And that's exactly what I did. Actually, you can look, and it totally is a grid system. I just created a bunch of grids, and that didn't really fit. It just didn't end up working for the overall adventure map to be like this. So I changed it. You shouldn't be afraid of change. Honestly, this almost everything, and I do say almost because there are a few exceptions, but it took a long time to be able to destroy this. I had to go block by block, getting rid of everything, even the tiny little details in the furnishings inside and the various items I filled things with. I just knew that I needed to get rid of it. I knew that this was not what I wanted. So it is important to be able to plan. It's also important to be able to be confident in yourself. Honestly, I almost completely just got rid of the Aztech Labs idea. I just was all like, this is not working. I don't want to build an adventure map anymore. But that's not the right attitude. The attitude right here, I do not want you to take away from this, just give up. I do not want you to take from this, oh, all of my builds suck, so I just shouldn't try. No, everyone has a chance at greatness. I'm not trying to be pretentious here. I'm not saying that my Aztech Labs map is perfect. It's not. I know that it's not perfect. But you shouldn't let yourself be content with mediocrity. This whole entire village, in my opinion at least, is mediocre. I poured my heart and soul into Aztech Labs, and that is the reason why it is here today. This structure, if I had continued on with it, Aztech Labs would have never become a reality. It is important to have a sense of reality. Do not just be content with mediocrity. And that is the one thing I want you to take away from this video. But for now, that is pretty much the end of this behind the scenes. I hope you found it interesting to relive a little bit of Aztech Labs past. I am very, very glad I kept the old version of Aztech Labs over these few months, because I returned to it. I'm all like, yes, it was such a good decision for me to plan and change the entire idea. I know that it was such a hard decision to make, to start all over again, but it was a worth it decision. So if you want a world download, I can obviously provide that. I'd have to convert it to Bedrock, and things might not end up being perfect. For example, curses actually don't convert to Bedrock. Curses don't exist there. And when I converted Aztech Labs over, a lot of items had Riptide and weird aquatic update enchantments. So I can't promise that everything will end up being exactly the way it is from the Xbox One edition. It's just a matter of whether you guys want it or not. If you want a world download of basically my Aztec failure, I can obviously provide a world download for you. Just leave a comment, tell me if you want it, and I will be happy to oblige. But until next time, I will see you guys in the next behind the scenes video over Aztech Labs, or maybe even just some other project I've been working on. Bye.